Hey everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to another episode of the Home Tech Podcast. Jason Griffin here, so happy to have you with us. Joined as always by my partner Seth Johnson. Seth, Happy New Year, how's it going?
Happy New Year, man. It feels like it's been a month, but I think that's just how the holidays go, and then of course how the hangovers go after New Year. But
yeah, everyone's kind of trying to bounce back and get back in gear, I think.
Trying to remember how we do the show. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta send out the tweet that we're doing it live. Got to turn on the live thing. Yeah. All right, here we are. We're doing this.
You almost forgot the music in the live show waiting room tonight, which, you know, I know our those of our listeners who join us for our live podcast would have been really deprived of a weekly treat.
Yeah, and that's free. That comes with the show, guys. So it's my gift to you.
A good, yeah, no kidding. Well, you do a great job or a terrible job, I guess, depending on who you ask. But more about that shortly. If you're curious what we're talking about, want to really quickly just tease our show here. We had sort of a peek behind the curtain here, a last minute guest booking. We appreciate it. Brad Hinsey from Control4 agreed right there, sort of at the 11th hour, following some really big news of theirs today, to come on the show and join us. I say today, of course, we're recording here on a Wednesday evening, and this will go live on Friday. But the big news, of course, you've probably heard is Control4 has continued their acquisition spree, and they acquired ihiji. And so we're really excited to have had Brad on the show, and I certainly have a lot of opinions about what this means for the future of the industry. And I think it's generally a very exciting news, and I think a lot of great things will come from it. But we'll save most of that for the interview, because I think Brad did a really good job of summarizing it, and we really appreciated him taking the time to come on.
Yeah, they've been on a buying spree, I guess. With that stock price comes with a lot of money, right? So I'm trying to remember all the companies that they purchased. Of course, they purchased Extra Vegetables way back, and that was a software acquisition, talent acquisition. Leaf, which is HDMI matrices and the like. Package, Triad, and now ihiji. So that's a decent portfolio they've got built up.
Yeah, definitely. So again, we'll save further comment on that for the interview, but definitely stay tuned for that. Like I said, I think Brad did a great job of summarizing it. A couple of other quick announcements. We are going to hit a few news stories before we get into our interview with Brad, but we did want to quickly mention a couple of new initiatives that we spun up late last year and look forward to continuing in 2018. And one of those, of course, is the new HomeTech Top 5 weekly newsletter that we're doing. So we realized that as part of our weekly show prep here on the podcast, we follow a ton of different technology blogs and even non-technology blogs, just news blogs in general, and sort of scour them to pull out the relevant home technology stories. And so in addition to the stories that we talk about here every week on the show, we're going to send out a weekly newsletter. Typically Saturday or Sunday is when you're going to get that, so you can enjoy it with your morning coffee and check out our top 5 picks of the home technology stories for the week. And sometimes those will align with stories that we talk about here on the show, and other times they won't, depending on the timing of when they break. So I think you'll get a nice mix of different stories. So we'd encourage listeners to go check that out. Head over to HomeTech.fm. Again, that's HomeTech.fm, and look over on the right-hand side for the subscribe button if you're interested in receiving our HomeTech Top 5 newsletter, as well as weekly show reminders.
Yep, absolutely. And also check out the YouTube channel. I'm going to have to find a place to put the link for that on our website. We have so many links there in the top bar now. So I'm going to have to figure out where to do that. This show is now available on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel with about 100 episodes, maybe a little bit more. I know, Jason, your TV moving video has been there for a number of years. Where you
that's gold. That is gold. I forgot that was on there.
Yes. It's a crime that happened many years ago. The statute of limitations are gone, but
is up. So
it's very well documented though. And So yeah, check that out along with this show and all the other last 100 episodes or so are now available on YouTube. So pretty cool little initiative that we have going on there.
Yeah, it's great. And Seth, like, so explain it a little bit, because, YouTube, I think video, and I know in the past we haven't done video. Actually, we are getting close to that with our patron program, and we'll talk about that in a second. And that's one of our funding goals on Patreon. But I understood from hearing some dialogue of yours on the hub this week that this is like people are using YouTube for podcasting. I mean, these are just audio only episodes. So fill in the gaps for me.
It's audio only episodes. You'll see basically the HomeTech logo, but I know that a lot of people just throw on YouTube Red or whatever. They'll have stuff just playing in the background. And HomeTech can definitely be one of those. If you want. There's no real visual element to our show just yet, and maybe we'll be able to get there one day. We're getting close. It's just kind of why I have to start thinking about video and building that into the show, how we prep for the show somehow. So that's just me getting ready for something that is hopefully inevitably coming when we hit that $250 goal on Patreon.
Yeah. Yep. So last bit of housekeeping here. That segues perfectly into, we do want to thank, as we always do, we want to thank our patrons of the show. That is a way that, if you're not familiar, you can support our efforts here at the HomeTech Podcast for as little as $1 a month. If you're interested in learning more about that, head over to HomeTech.fm/support. Once again, that's HomeTech.fm/support. We've got a lot of people supporting us here, and it means a ton to us. We really appreciate it, and the platform allows us to set funding goals, and at $250 a month, we'll start producing some video, and so you'll get to see our smiley faces here as we record the show, and that's a little bit nerve-wracking, but it'll be a lot of fun, and we look forward to it. So that's sort of a challenge to the listeners. If you're wanting to sort of push us to the next level as a podcast, we'd appreciate your support. So one last time, HomeTech.fm/support.
Yep. Thanks very much to everyone who has helped support the show for as little as $1 a month. We really, really do appreciate it. We're trying to put that money to good use. So Jason, let's get started with the show. I've got a pick of the week that I've been just kind of hanging on to in a very special way. Hanging on, get it? This was posted way back.
That one took me a second.
This was posted way back by a friend of the show there, TJ, in our Slack channel, the Hub, that you were talking about. And this particular this is an amazing installation job that somebody did to a working Ubiquiti access point. They didn't have a mounting bracket, so what's the next best thing? A deck screw right through the middle of the package.
It's brilliant. And I'm sure there were a lot of, head scratching going on, and possibly even calls to tech support. Why isn't my Wi-Fi range working the way that it should? So this one's a gem. TJ is actually with us in the live chat room tonight, and said this one made him sad. I agree. I didn't quite know, Seth, if I should laugh or cry when I saw this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's funny is you can send that picture. If you don't know what's going on, you can send that picture, and you're like, well, what am I looking at? And it just takes a few minutes for that screw.
You gotta look. Yeah.
The good part is it's like totally a deck screw too, with like the hex head on it, I believe. So it's like they really put some effort into getting that mounted up there.
Or that was just the one they had laying in the bottom of their tool bag.
Yeah, they said the comments on the Reddit thread that this was posted to said that the device still works. They must have missed the little board somehow that it went through. But wow, impressive.
There you go.
Yeah, it's got that's an ad for Ubiquiti right there.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, we've got just a couple of stories we want to touch on before we get into our interview with Brad Hinsey from Control4. First one we had teed up here, actually interesting sounding headline, had to dive in, and I'm still trying to sort of figure out what this one is going to mean exactly. Roku to power smart speakers, soundbars, and whole home audio. So the streaming specialist is debuting a licensing program for smart audio devices, and this is similar in a lot of ways to, I think, their approach in the CNET article that we'll have linked, sort of leads with that, mentions that Roku has had a lot of success with licensing their technology to TV makers. So Roku being built right in, and I guess they're looking to take a similar approach with distributed audio throughout the house and license their technology to different providers. Interestingly, it looks like the first OEM to participate in the program, or at least to announce participation, is TCL, who is a TV maker, as most of you probably know. But it appears as though TCL will debut their first, quote, non-TV Roku device at their CES press conference. So an interesting story here and an interesting development from Roku. I'll be really curious to see how this one shapes up.
Yeah, I went and stayed, probably a year or so ago, at a hotel, and they had these TCL TVs in with Roku built into them. And man, if those were the best like TVs I've ever used. They are really, I mean, the picture quality wasn't all that great, but we talk a lot about having input zero and wanting to drive towards that. Roku has done that with these TVs with the software embedded in it. When you turn it on, there's a little menu with Netflix and HBO and all that stuff right in front of you. Very easy to navigate, very easy to use the Roku remote. I was stunned actually as to how easy it was. And then if you wanted to switch over and watch the antenna TV or whatever, cable, I think it was just hooked up to an antenna at this particular hotel. It was kind of like one of those bed and breakfast things on the beach on an island down south. But you just scrolled right over and clicked on this little thing that looked like an antenna, and icon that looks like an antenna, and you were watching TV. It was a great experience for a device like this, and I think I'll be interested to see if Roku can do that and just kind of expand on their lines and bring in multi-room audio, sound bars. This is going to be an interesting company to watch this year. I think there was a rumor about this last year sometime. Either we briefly mentioned it or passed on the story because it was just a rumor, but I do remember seeing this kind of come through. I think Roku is going to be kind of one of those companies to watch here in the future. They definitely have something going with the software and product that they have, and don't forget that they do have a commercial lineup too with BrightSign, which are kind of a digital signage player that's pretty popular in that realm. So they've got their fingers, I guess, in a lot of pies, and it reminds me of a company that just knows what they're doing. And they seem to be, every time I go and use Roku, I'm just impressed. Like I'm not like when I use my Amazon Echo. Haha, see, I'm going to start getting those in and just extremely disappointed and shaking my head.
Yeah. Your weekly Seth, Amazon knock.
I'm going to knock on them until they make it better. But yeah, I'm just impressed by it. Every time I pick up a Roku device and use it, I'm just impressed by it. Like it is a nice thing to use. It feels good to use, and it's not something that gives me friction. So
right.
I'm pretty impressed with what they're doing here, and hopefully they can do that with audio. I'd be pretty interested to see what they do.
Yeah. Greg in the chat room is agreeing with you, and I do too. I think Roku is a company that is kind of a fun one to watch, in the sense that, there's always been talk about Roku's demise when Apple TV is eventually going to swallow them up, or Chromecast or Fire TV or whatever. But I think Roku's really held on and done very well for themselves, mainly because of that user experience. I think you hit on something really important there, and I haven't used them a ton, but I can say that every time I have, it's been a generally a very good experience. So to close the story out, wanted to mention, again, reading from CNET here, this new licensing program includes 2 basic levels of functionality: a Roku Connect. So devices with this functionality can connect together wirelessly, similar to a whole home audio system like Sonos, and be controlled with voice commands from a TV remote. It will allow a Roku TV to easily pair with a Roku Connect soundbar, for example. The second level of the licensing program is the Roku Entertainment Assistant, and this is interesting. So again, quoting, "A voice assistant designed by Roku and optimized for home entertainment. It will enable voice commands on voice-supported Roku devices, According to the press release, for example, customers will be able to say, "Hey, Roku, play jazz in the living room," and a smart soundbar with Roku Connect will begin playing music, even if the TV is turned off. So quite a few words there, but hopefully that gives a better picture for what this program is all about. And definitely head over to HomeTech.fm / what are we, 194. HomeTech.fm / 194, and we'll include a link to that story in the show notes.
I hope I don't have to start bleeping out Roku.
I was thinking the same thing.
Or something.
I was, as I read that, literally that thought crossed my mind. It's one more, little more work for Seth in post-production.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of companies that require me to do a lot of post-production, Amazon has acquired Blink, an Andover, Massachusetts-based company that makes internet-connected home security cameras. Jason, what's funny about this story, we talked about this. Blink had come out with a new product or two, a doorbell. I think it was a video doorbell. And we looked at it a couple weeks ago and said, who the heck is Blink? And kind of just passed on the story. There was so much other news to talk about. And then promptly a couple of days later, Amazon figured out who they were and purchased them. So on its website, Blink said, if you own one of our systems, nothing changes now. We'll continue to operate under the Amazon umbrella, selling and supporting the same great devices you know and love. It's day one for us at Amazon. We're looking forward to seeing what we can deliver with our customers together. So it really sounds like Amazon is kind of really on the prowl and trying to expand what they can offer for in-house control and home automation products to kind of anchor, to kind of splinter off from the anchor that they have with the Amazon Echo. This is a video doorbell and security camera product line, which Amazon kind of has. Like they have a Nest competitor with their new, I forget what it's called, but they have a camera that looks similar to the drop cam Nest thing. But Amazon seems to be like really pushing out and acquiring and getting these technology and the talent lined up to really do something special. I'm hoping one day that they do, so I can stop giving them a hard time.
Get their interface right, Seth?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, make an app that works.
Yeah. Well, that might be a good place to start as well. It's funny. My One Vision colleague Joey is in the live chat with us tonight, and incidentally grew up in Andover. So who knew? I'm not sure if he was familiar with Blink prior to this story breaking, but the financial terms of the deal weren't disclosed, so it's hard to say if this was a great opportunity of a lifetime type of deal for Blink, or they were in trouble and this was a target of opportunity, or very likely it was somewhere in the middle. But I do think it's one of the things when I read a story like this about Amazon is I think about the just absolutely insane amount of money that Amazon has, and how an acquisition like this is such financially such an easy thing for them to do. And so, financially, who knows? But I do think it's interesting to speculate about why they would go purchase this company versus developing their own technology. And I will be very interested to see what comes of it. So we definitely wanted to touch on it because, like you said, we left Blink on the cutting room floor, I think literally like 2 days before this story broke, and we were sort of scratching our heads a little bit and trying to figure out what we had missed. So there you have it.
TJ's helping with my memory there. It's the Amazon Cloud Cam. I don't know how I could forget that. Such a memorable name. Indoor security camera works with, and I'm going to just bleep her out there. So it's available on Amazon for $119 with Prime shipping.
Got it. All right. Well, we do want to quickly tease CES a little bit. It's right around the corner, Seth, and this time of year is always it's always a little bit slow, right? I think the holidays and people are sort of keeping things close to the vest, both because maybe they're taking time off for the holidays, but also because CES comes around quick right after New Year's, and things will really ramp up. CES is, of course, always one of those shows that I think as a home technology guy, I struggle with a little bit. I think it's a compelling and interesting show to watch. I've never gone in person. I'd like to someday, but I'm just speaking from watching the tech press and the coverage of it. it's like drinking from a fire hose every year. I know there's typically a few key themes that I'm keeping an eye on, the big one being TVs. It's always really interesting to see what the TV makers come out with at CES. But of course, this year, like in years, recent years past, there will be surely a fair number of IoT stories and connected home stories, and we will, of course, do our best to pull those out and help our listeners and followers cut through some of the noise and figure out what matters from CES. I know Julie over at CE Pro did her ultimate CES preview, which is, as it has been in years past, a massive undertaking. I can't even imagine how long it takes her to put it together. What was it, 91 pages this year, Seth?
91 pages. Yeah, this is a big one. This is a big one. And of course, noise is the key word. There's a lot of noise in here, but this is where everybody goes and talks about their new products. I was making jokes before the show. I was saying CES, where the products aren't real and the ship dates don't matter. Because it seems like we see all of these things every year, and we talk about all these products every year, and then we look back at the previous year and they haven't shipped yet, or they went out of business or whatever. Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm waiting for a lot of these. I'm just waiting to see what comes out of this that we can kind of take away and actually use in our home. That's not like one of those fly-by-night companies or fly-by-night products. Who knows? I mean, Amazon could be at the show here and picking up acquisitions left and right on really cool product. But I don't know. I'm kind of jaded right now on CES just because of how the past couple of years or past few years this has all worked out. We've sat down and gone through this Julie's PDF and looked like if you follow the hashtag on Twitter, it's just like constant releases that full week. Of course, other news organizations are covering other angles like cell phones and TVs and all that good stuff, and it's just it's like drinking out of a fire hose, like you said. Like, there's just only so much you can take in, and skimming through all that and finding the little, like, the gold out of that is really, really tough to do. So hopefully we get to see that this year, and hopefully something floats to the top and we're able to find something neat. Yeah.
Yep. That is always the challenge, but I have fun with it. I think, to me, it's like that is part of the fun of it, even though it's like, I know you're saying you're a little bit jaded on it. To me, it's kind of like, yeah, that's CES, it's like a total,
it's just dreams, Jason. It's just dreams.
Anything goes. And it's kind of, it's sort of fun to look at it and speculate. But yeah, if you're looking at CES and really trying to glean serious stories out of it, definitely it can be a challenge, but we look forward to it. It's always a fun show to talk about, and like I said, there's always a couple of nuggets that we pull out of there, and typically they aren't surprises, but it's cool to see what the again, the big TV makers are doing is always something I look forward to. So
they're talking about 8K this year.
8K, I know.
8K, and 10K too. So
it's ridiculous.
The more Ks, Jason, more Ks.
Yeah, I just, I wish we could get 4K right before we move on to 8K. But, they just, more pixels is better, I suppose.
It's a bigger number, so naturally it's better, right?
Yeah.
That's how it works.
So that is right around the corner. Looks like, January 7th. So that'll only be just a couple of days after this show releases. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, and we will report back.
Yep, have some fun with it. Hopefully, like I said, we'll find something fun in here. These things that you kind of get a wind on early are just kind of but typically stuff does pop up within the week of CES that is really cool. That is really like, oh, they're really thinking. They really know what they're doing with that, and hopefully we see that. So I am looking forward to it. As jaded as I am looking forward to it. It should be a fun thing to watch.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it a lot of the stuff just never launches, and so one last thing I don't think we mentioned here, but I thought it was an interesting article, Seth, that you had picked out, and sort of fun to look at, stuff that launched at CES 2017 but never came out. And so we won't itemize those here, but it's an article on Engadget. We'll we'll link to HomeTech.fm/194. Quick read, but kind of funny to see, and I think proves your point, Seth, that what's the saying, CES, where the products aren't real, and give it to me one more time.
Ship dates don't matter. Yeah, so like, I mean, CES isn't really, like, there's that $700 smart lock that they came out with that's not going to ship now. Like, this happens outside of CES as well, to be fair. So like, that was kind of a tragic thing. I think that the smart lock company was hoping that somebody was going to buy them, and that deal fell through, and they had no plan B. So they had to lay everybody off. But that's just kind of like a recent thing. But I really think that we should be able to find. There's some major brands going to CES this year. Like Fabaro is all over Julie's article there. That's a major Z-Wave brand, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they show up with at CES.
Yep, absolutely. Well, on that note, Seth, let's go ahead and get started here again with our interview. We had Brad Hinsey on from Control4. He joined us very graciously at the last minute here to talk about primarily the ihiji acquisition, which was just announced this week, but we also touched on a few other things with him and had a great time. So we hope you enjoy, and thank you as always for tuning in.
Hey, Brad, welcome to the show. Been busy?
Hey, guys. Yes, a little busy. I don't know why we always do this to ourselves. It's always like the second day, January 2nd or 3rd, we have to come out with some big announcement, and we spend all of the holidays working on it. So yeah, just a little busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the big news dropped this morning as we're having the conversation this afternoon. The big news that Control4 purchased a ihiji, which is one of the major, if not the major, brand in the remote management services market, where dealers can and professional integrators can monitor and keep status on devices and things within someone's home. What was Control4's motivation to purchase ihiji?
So that's a really good question. A lot of people will say, "Oh, well, you already had Backpack, right? You had some of that capability before." And while that's true, one of the things that Backpack is really good at is the deep integration with package hardware. And one of the things that ihiji is really great at is that customer-centric view of the world, but also the integration with third-party products. And they boast a list of 2,000 different third-party products that can be monitored by the ihiji appliance. And so when you combine the deep integration with Backpack and package networking hardware and Control4 gear with the ability to monitor and manage those 2,000 third-party products, we give dealers a more comprehensive and robust tool to manage their entire customer base. Because the reality is that connected homes today are a heterogeneous mix of products and devices, and there's no such thing as like one brand for the whole home. So the better tools we can provide to our integrators to be able to monitor and manage that wide variety, the more effective they'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking a little bit before the show here tonight, and I mentioned to you that seeing the news and just reading it even right away, it seemed like a very synergistic acquisition to me. I know that, some people may have had that reaction that, oh, you guys already had Backpack, but I definitely see the sort of unique strengths of each one of those platforms, and I think bringing those two together under one interface or one technology solution, a unified solution, will be really interesting. So talk about that. I mean, for anybody listening who may not have caught the press release or read any of the press surrounding it, what is the overall plan with those two platforms? As I understand, you're going to be working towards merging those together. So talk about that, and maybe keep in mind, tell it through the angle of if you're a Backpack dealer, here's sort of what it means, and if you're an ihiji dealer, here's what it means, because we do have a lot of professionals who listen to the show, and I'm sure they're all very curious about what the future is for these various platforms.
Right. So the future, and its future is 2018, right? We're not talking about 2 years down the road. What we want to do is we want to take the strengths of both of those platforms and put it into a single interface. And really, I think one of the things that I think ihiji brings to the table and has done really well is thinking about customers, right? Customer issues, customer homes, all that kind of information, and then marry that with the data and the visibility into that individual home. And, I think that this combined platform gives us a new opportunity to kind of reset and raise the bar on, focusing on the customer's needs, information about a project, and what's going on currently inside of that home. Now, because it is a new platform, it's a good question. What happens to the backpack world? What happens to the existing ihiji world? Well, the beauty of cloud software and also being the manufacturer of both of the devices in those worlds, we have the ability to just upgrade those homes for the dealers. So for a professional installer that's monitoring these homes, they'll get the added benefit of these new products without needing to go on site. It's cloud software that we just roll out the update for them. The interface improves, the features improve. Some cases there might be a firmware update that they'll have to push out, but for the most part, they just get that benefit. So what we've been telling dealers in the communications that we've had today, if you're using Backpack today, great, continue using it. Bring all your homes online with Backpack. And when the new platform comes out, you'll just get the added benefit. And the same is true for ihiji. If you're using it today, continue to add it. We've simplified life by removing the need to buy a separate recurring license, but continue to just stay the course there. If you're a Backpack user but never using ihiji, hold on. We don't want dealers to get into ihiji just yet because the new interface will be dramatically different. We don't want them to go through the learning curve of learning a new tool that's just going to change completely. And the same is true in reverse. If you're an ihiji dealer and not Backpack, then hang tight. We'll get the new platform out as soon as we can. And then at that point, spend the time to learn how to best use those tools. Got it.
So sort of continue doing what you're doing until you guys, Control4, have a chance to finalize that updated interface, and then you'll just push that out via software, and everybody will get the update and off to the races. So that does bring up another question that I did want to ask again. Really, folks, for the dealers in the audience who are kind of trying to dissect the story and figure this out. ihiji was its own manufacturer. They produced the hardware and the software, and now, of course, they're coming in under the Control4 ecosystem. So moving forward, if I'm an integrator who's been out there and I haven't selected an RSM platform yet, and I was about to pull the trigger on ihiji, do I now need to be a Control4 dealer in order to do that?
Well, no. It's our universe sometimes gets a little bit with the various brands. What we're doing is if there was no relationship with Control4 prior to the acquisition, we're actually bringing dealers into the package dealer portal. And that's a really straightforward process to become a dealer on that portal so that you can buy the ihiji hardware and gain access to that software. We did have a large number of dealers that were already in the Control4 universe, and they were buying ihiji. Now they just simply buy it through the Control4 dealer portal like they did previously.
What new products should dealers expect to find there in the new portal or on the Backpack site?
So for dealers that are new to the package dealer portal and new to the buying relationship with us, they'll have access to the complete line of package networking hardware. They'll also have access to Triad audio, Triad speakers. And we have a list of third-party products that we also sell through our dealer portal. Those are also available to those dealers as well. Plus, with the size of Control4 and our commitment to the dealer channel, they also get access to all of the resources that we've made available to our existing dealers. Inside sales, we have field sales, field technical support, a wide range of tech support hours on chat and email and phone, and all of those resources become available to them as well.
Got it. So as listeners to the show might be aware, and we were talking about before the episode, Brad, you guys have given me some work to do. We've got to go back now and do a revision to our Insider's Guide to Remote Systems Management, which is an ebook that we put out a number of months ago, sort of surveying the space. And at the time, we took a look at 4 different providers, and really 4 has now effectively become 3. You've got Control4, obviously Backpack and ihiji eventually merging into the unified platform. So there's one, and then of course you've got Domotes and Snap AV, and they've each, I think, got some interesting appeal. Domotes, sort of being the last remaining kind of, I don't want to say brand agnostic, because I believe in my heart of hearts that you guys bought ihiji for the right reasons and will continue to want to continue to support multiple brands, but they're sort of their own independent thing, and for whatever reason that might appeal to certain integrators. And then of course you got Snap AV, who's a very large provider, but no control system. And I would say you guys are now the most vertically integrated RSM provider out there. And in terms of just having everything in-house and under one roof and being able to really tie that in from top to bottom, I think there's really even some interesting things that could eventually come. Speculating here with a composer and having that sort of speak to an RSM system. And so I just want your general reaction to the importance of having that RSM solution under one roof, and again being able to really come at it from a very vertically integrated approach.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time speaking with Stuart Wrench from ihiji during all the preparations for this announcement. And, we did some press interviews today as well. And he said a couple of times, Backpack had a level of integration with the networking hardware that we could just never achieve on our own. Because of the access to the software directly on the device. I think that the importance of the vertical integration really shines through in the depth and the capabilities that become unlocked when you have access to the full stack of software on a particular device. And I think that's one part of it. But more importantly, and I've seen this with our dealers and the way we've handled tech support issues since the package acquisition. And when you have software engineers with a deep knowledge of networking sitting next to software engineers with a deep knowledge of automation and Zigbee and so on and so forth, you get a lot of synergy. And you get a lot of benefit, from, even as simple as tech support issues. We no longer will a dealer call and say, hey, there's this issue or whatever, and have the tech support guy say, oh, well, that's networking, or that's, this other brand's router or this other brand's switch. You got to call them for tech support. And now our tech support agents have the ability to help the dealer up and down the stack. So one, you get more features, you get deeper integration, and 2, you just get so much broader domain expertise from all parts of the business. And so that's how it really benefits dealers in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a compelling compelling argument you're going to be able to make to the market now. And I think one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, because I know we have some other things we want to touch on during this interview, but one of the things, again, going back to our study of the space and our continuing work that really touches a lot of monitoring and sort of living in that world, we found that these platforms are very sticky with dealers. It's one of those things that when a dealer really commits to an RSM platform and starts to deploy 5, 10, 20, then 40, monitoring sites out there, it can be hard to move them from one platform to another. Do you do you guys see most of your growth in this space coming from from maybe new dealers who haven't dabbled yet, or existing, sort of a combination of new dealers who haven't gotten into it yet, combined with, of course, the ihiji and backpack base? Or do you actually think you'll be able to maybe pull dealers away from some of the other competitive platforms out there?
So that's a good question. That's an interesting question, and I think I might address what you're getting at maybe from a slightly different angle. We removed the subscription fees for both Backpack, after the acquisition, and then from ihiji today. So I think that the growth question is not a financial one, right? Because this set of tools is not a revenue generator for us, not directly anyway. But I think the important thing is that, for our industry to really take advantage of the growing connected home opportunity, our dealers all need to be very efficient in their ability to install, configure, and service all of those homes, right? If we can reduce the time and cost it takes for a dealer to install a home, that means they can do more homes, and they can push the automation into homes that might have been priced out of it previously. So that's our long-term goal. A goal is really, how do we arm our dealers with the right tools they need to be really successful in their business and taking care of their customers? Because we know that will just help the industry as a whole. Now, at the end of the day, we do have to report quarterly financials. We do have to drive business growth. And we think that our business growth opportunity is related to more projects and larger projects. And how do we unlock that capability? And part of that is through enabling our dealers to be really effective. As it relates to the stickiness, I think that this is a step toward something that I think is really important for dealers, and that is that the RSM platforms are sticky for a reason, and that is because they provide value to a dealer. Plus, there's a high switching cost. But I think there's still a bigger opportunity with those dealers, and that is that I think for many dealers that are working with an RSM platform, they still don't have 100% of their customers on the platform. And in order to achieve this goal of getting dealers more efficient and more effective, we have to provide value, and we have to provide a tool that dealers can use with every single customer. And so the stickiness is an angle on that, but more importantly, we want dealers using this with every customer to make that interaction with a customer better. And so that's the area where we're really focused, both on a feature development perspective, business policies and plans. The pricing is one of those things that really supports that. And that's where we're hyper focused.
Excellent. I've been kind of monitoring the chat rooms and our Slack channel over here at the hub, and there's been a lot of positive feedback off of this. So I think it's really exciting, the future that Control4 is setting up, and like Jason's talking about, the vertical integration. You guys are doing everything these days. I mean, when I was a dealer, I remember just selling controllers and remotes, and now there's a full line here.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm really happy to be here at Control4 and associated with everybody. I got an email this afternoon that said that Google is going to get out of the Zagat restaurant review business. And I almost sent that around to the executive team and said, hey, this should be our next acquisition. Back to your point about we're kind of doing everything. No, there's a line. We are focused on the connected home, but it is true that the breadth of the products that we're offering and the solutions that we're offering is really quite impressive. Even when you look back just 3 years ago, it's changed so dramatically.
Right. You heard it here, folks. Restaurant reviews coming to Control4 soon.
Yeah, we compete against Yelp next.
Well, speaking of looking back, I did want to, while we had you here, I did want to kind of take a look back and look back at this last year's CEDIA. It was kind of a rush show for various reasons. For me, at least, to get out of there. And I know that I spoke to you a couple times on the show floor as I was walking through that the day I was there. And then scheduling went crazy. Of course, we had a hurricane, so we just couldn't get you on, and this, that, and the other. Here we are today. I do want to kind of take a look back and talk a little bit about some of the big features that you guys released there at CEDIA. And I'm not talking about Spotify, which is huge, but and some of the audio systems that you have put out. I mean, the Triad One, I've heard a lot of really good things about. But one of the big things that Jason and I walked away from the show just really talking about was the PCNA certification, and how some of the stats you had there in the keynote. 30% of the support calls come from network issues. That's a whole lot of phone calls too. I know how many phone calls you guys can get in a day. I've been on hold a couple of times. 50% of field escalations end up resulting in being resolved with networking related issues. So the PCNA certification is such a great idea, and I think I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, because this certification really is aimed at our industry to help raise the competency of the average installer when it comes to networking. Most of my guys, when I was a dealer, would terminate the wires correctly and plug it in, and if it had a blinky light, they walked away. That was good enough. But with networking, there's a whole lot more than that blinky light. That means things are working correctly. So I'd like to pick your brain a little bit about PCNA and hear how it's going, how that's been received by dealers since the launch there in, I guess, September.
Yeah. So PCNA was, we had a lot of big announcements last fall, but this is one personally that I was really excited about. I worked really closely with the training team as they were developing this program. And, I think one of the things that we took away internally is that this is a hard topic. And, it took a lot of energy and a lot of work and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to put this together. But it's so gratifying to see that you can create an educational course that provides real new knowledge. The stats, about 30% of customer or of tech support calls are network related. That's fine and all for us. We need to fix that kind of a thing, right? Because if we can reduce phone calls, we can improve response time. But the more important thing, and this relates to the whole ihiji acquisition as well, we know that same volume is calling to our dealers as well from their customers. And they don't always bubble up to us, but those tech support issues create a time suck on dealers and create frustration for our customers. And so PCNA, there's been a lot of excitement from our dealers, and we're so happy with the response so far. We have about 700 dealers, I should actually say technicians, that have registered for PCNA in just the few months that it's been on the market, which is just outstanding to see such a response, because it's one thing to offer a webinar, right, that's free, and you might get a few hundred people listening in and kind of like absorbing what's there. But this is an investment on the part of a dealer, and it's a big time investment on the part of the technicians to go through those courses. So the embrace of this as an approach has just been really gratifying. That I think we found a model that helps support the education and the deep learning associated with networking for our technicians. We released the final exam recently, and so we have our first class of technicians emerging out of the program, and for the most part, everybody has come through with flying colors, but there are a few that have just been like, wow, I had no idea it was going to be this technical and this deep. So we have a certain percentage that didn't pass the exam, So it's fine that we have some technicians that don't pass immediately, because we are trying to set a high bar and set a standard for what it means to be a networking certified professional within our industry. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from the dealers that are going through this course that they're learning stuff, and that it's related directly to what they're doing every day. So we can't wait to continue to get more and more technicians through this. And I think that as we get some more that have been certified, and that continues to grow by word of mouth, we'll just get more and more technicians registered and going through it.
Right. I think one of the brilliant things you guys did was include equipment with the certification. I can't tell you, as a geek, I never fell in love with product or really wanted to get interested in a product until I had it at home and could kind of mess around with it on nights or the weekends or whatever. And you know, this would be great if I worked for a dealer and they signed me up for this certification. I get a bunch of really cool new shiny network equipment to install at the house, and then I got to go through the certification process and maybe, you know, sit there and tinker with it and toy with it. I'm going to learn a whole lot more than if I am showing up to a client's house and doing some quick on the job training and maybe not setting up everything correctly, or maybe not even understanding what the numbers mean when I punch them into the router. I think that was just a really smart idea. And when I saw you guys were doing that, I just, this is great. This is exactly what this industry needs.
Well, you know, the evil genius behind the plan and the training team, they've wanted to do this for about a year or so, and it just took that long to kind of pull everything together. But the evil genius behind that is that they know our audience, right? Many of our dealers are just like you, get totally excited when you're opening a box with a shiny new toy. But the more important thing that is, as it relates to that knowledge, is that as humans, we learn and retain that information better when we get in and we practice. And so, you know, combining both of those things into one thing, we believe, and we're starting to see those fruits, that it's a good path to add competency for our dealers.
Right. No, I remember being a young technician and not really knowing or caring what I was putting in. I was just kind of going in and hanging TVs and this and the other. And I ended up with a Control4 controller, and the rest is history. You know, you just kind of you have to start from somewhere, and getting to bring it home and hook it up and play with it and use it every single day and run into the problems that I may run into in the field or a client may have using a system. That's priceless. That's absolutely priceless to already know or see or find maybe a frustration of how I've been programming and setting up a system, and I do it at my house, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I've been doing that on every single system I installed. Maybe I should do it differently on the next one. So exactly. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I had just one more point on that. I forgot to notice or mention. You know, one of the pieces of feedback that we've gotten from the team or from dealers that are going through the course is that this isn't just a package training. And I think that, you know, you talked about the Control4 controller and getting hands-on and getting it in your house. And, you know, that's awesome. That's really great when you're using a Control4 controller, but you're not always. And we know that not every home is going to have package gear. And so I think the other thing that has been exciting about the PCNA program is that we're teaching real networking fundamentals that can be applied independent of which manufacturer might be chosen. You know, and some of that clearly hands-on is package related, but, you know, that competency and understanding just how networking works is really invaluable.
Right. Absolutely. I 100% agree. Speaking of the, doing stuff good for the homeowners, I kind of want to switch over and talk a little bit about this when-then engine that you guys released. And I think this was your big keynote presentation. I remember saying, oh my God, it's Brad. He's up on the big screen. But this blew me away. This when-then is really solving a problem that has been kind of, it's solving a problem in a different way that has been one of like the main sticking points to some consumers out there who say, oh, I can't, if I buy a professionally installed Control4 system, I have to call the dealer every time I want to change the system, or I want to do something with my system. I have to call the dealer and pay him $150 an hour to come out and do this. Well, why can't I do that myself? And this when then is I'm going to let you explain it because you do such a good job at it. But I really like this. So take it away, Brad.
This so when then is really quite exciting. I think for dealers and for homeowners. It became really personal to me last summer. We had our Airstream and we were at an event in LA, and I kid you not, no less than 5 times did I have a potential customer walk up to me and say, hey, I know all about Control4. It's really great. But ultimately, I went with a couple of DIY solutions, whatever, doorbell or a thermostat or whatever, because I didn't want to have to call my dealer every time I wanted something changed. And that was like a stab through my heart, because it's like, why? And so, when then really gives homeowners the ability to personalize their home for their lives. That gives them the opportunity to live with the technology. And, because we all go into a situation where we visualize what we think we want it to do. So you make it do that. But then when you're living with it, it's like, that's not quite right. And so now a homeowner can live with it and tweak it and adjust it. And, we tried to keep it really simple for a homeowner. And it says it in the name, what it's really designed to do. When something happens, then do something. And we think, and what we've seen so far is that paradigm works. It's intuitive enough that homeowners kind of can wrap their head around it. And they don't have to understand programming and programming concepts, right? Because that's not something that's natural for everyone. But in just describing what homeowners want, they often use the right kind of terminology that fits within that paradigm. It's like, when I want my garage door, or when my garage door opens, I want an alert on my phone so I know what's going on, right? And that's just describing what they want. Well, that fits in perfectly with this paradigm. And we give the homeowner a long list of possible when events, and that might be a button push. It might be an event like a door sensor or a motion sensor. And then they can choose the then actions, what happens when those events occur. And, we've got over 30 different types of then actions, whether it's send a push notification, adjust the lights, those kinds of activities. And we present that in the UI, and the dealer or the homeowner can just do it at will. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to merge the best of the professional install world with the flexibility and the ability to personalize their home with what homeowners are expecting from their technology today. And so to that end, we try to keep it simple, but we also lock down what the professional installer has done for the homeowner, so that the homeowner they don't get themselves in trouble. And we also expose to the professional installer what has been personalized using when then. So if there is an issue, the dealer can log in and they can see both their programming and the personalization that's been done with when then all in the same view. So, we're trying to be all inclusive and involve dealers in the whole programming and the whole relationship with the customer, and give customers more flexibility and control too. And so far, we've had a lot of really great response from dealers and from homeowners. And I think you'll see some exciting things happening, as we continue to expand those capabilities.
Very cool. Yeah, I love it. I think those are, you hit on a couple of very important, I think, trends and important themes in the connected home and sort of empowering end users and of course the personalization of their experience. I think those are two really important takeaways there. And I know I was with Seth when I saw the news of that. I thought it was great news for Control4 dealers and homeowners alike. So hats off, and hats off to you. And I'm glad to hear that it is being received well out in the market. So we are running a little bit tight on our time here, Brad, but I did want to quickly ask you about a recent series I saw on a site that we follow here regularly as part of our show prep for the Home Tech podcast, and that's Digital Trends. And I saw a story come across recently, and I didn't realize you, Control4, were out there working with Digital Trends on this series. And then I saw your face on there, and you were there talking about this home renovation, and a very cool series, I think, to see. We see a ton of coverage in the press about, quote unquote DIY solutions, and I thought it was really cool as a former integrator to go on there and see, the really high quality work and frankly complicated work that home technology professionals are out there doing. So tell our listeners just a little bit, the quick version of the genesis of that series, and point them in the right direction if they want to go check it out. Yeah.
So, it really started with the realization among the consumer press that DIY isn't everything, and that smart home technology is actually complicated. And there is a role for professional installers. We did something with CNET and their smart home. That was about a year and a half ago. And then we've been working with Digital Trends to do this approach and tell the story about professional install. And really going to the next level when you want smart home technology for real, like real infrastructure and part of that. And so, they're actually up in Portland, this home. I went out there, we worked with them. They already had Triad speakers in the home theater, but really just upgrading everything. And we've had a great response. So I think from a marketing perspective, I've been really pleased and excited with the way that consumer tech press is beginning to embrace the professional install. Previously, they just didn't get it. They didn't understand why you would want that. Technology is getting so easy. You don't need a pro. But I think it's really come from a lot of them have brought these IoT devices in and worked with them individually, and they've experienced the shortcomings that happen when you don't have a pro involved and you really want to be more extensive. So hopefully we'll see more and more of these things, but I think it's certainly been a legitimization of professional install in the consumer tech press.
Very cool. Very good. We'll have to get a link for that and include it in our show notes over at HomeTech.fm/194. Brad, I know we're kind of getting a little close on our time here, and I do want to thank you very much for coming on the show. What's next for Control4? You guys usually do something this time of year. It looks like it's purchasing these companies and acquiring these companies right now. But ISE is right around the corner. Is there anything you can kind of tease up for that?
So our standard line. We like to announce and ship, which we think is unique for our industry. But at ISE, we'll be in Europe, which is always a great opportunity to get in front of all of the dealers that we have on that part of the world. Certainly, we're going to be showing all of the Triad lineup there. And so for those dealers over there, that'll be the first time to get real hands-on with the full line of Triad speakers, Triad audio, of course, the new package WR1. And then they'll get to see the goodness that comes along with the ihiji acquisition. And then we've got a few other surprises that we'll be announcing around the show. So you'll just have to stay tuned.
Besides the restaurant rating app, right?
Yes, that's right. Besides Zagat reviews.
Zagat reviews, right. Well, Brad, thanks so much for joining us here, kind of last minute here on a Wednesday night to chat a little bit about the new direction for Control4, acquiring ihiji, and going over some of the things that we really wanted to talk to you about at Cedia. If anybody wants to get in touch with you or reach out or learn more about Control4, what's the best way for them to do that?
Control4.com is always a good place to get started. There's a Control4 Facebook page. Also, Twitter is just Control4. You can email me directly, bhincy@control4.com as well. But thanks, guys. This is great. It's always a lot of fun to chat with you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time again on short notice, as Seth mentioned, and on a big news day. I'm sure it's been a very busy day for you, so we appreciate it. And thanks. We'll look forward to having you on again soon. Brad, take care.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you.